Alright, I'm pretty sick right now, so my voice is quite raunchy. But as I was writing my little morning manifestation things, the passage that I read from the book that I associate with it just seemed kind of to illuminate the idea of the ego. And this is by no means a beginner topic for me, but I guess I haven't really put much thought into my own ego, and I feel like my focus over the last years has really been around my soul and myself and my spirit and like what that is, and what my true light is, and what lights me up, and what my purpose is, and what really, like the things that lie in the deepest places of my heart, and who I want to be and what I want to create in this world. That's what I've been focusing on. But all this time, I've been living through my ego, which is like the filter which I see life through most of the time. It's also the filter that other people see me through. That is what's interesting, because I feel like my ego, when you hear the word ego, you think boisterous and loud and self-centered, and I don't know, it kind of like gives you standoffish vibes. It seems like it's very loud and in your face and like full of itself. That's not what the ego is. Maybe the ego shows up like that in some people, but that's not what the ego is. The ego is your identity. It's what you think you are when you don't know who you are. The ego is what you think you are when you don't know who you are. My biggest issue in my life, I feel, is, and no, I don't even, like, I know this to be true because it's been revealed to me in many ways, many times over the last few years, and especially most recently, it kind of just like solidified that this is the one main thing that causes me to live in hell in this reality. And that is a fear of being misunderstood. And I've talked about this before, and I've known this for quite a while, that I have a deep, deep, deep fear of this. And I didn't really know for a while if this fear was a result of some trauma, or if it was like, I didn't know if this fear was like the deepest issue for me. I know that this is like the thing for me. It's like this fear is something that my ego has created. It doesn't exist. Like, this fear, there's no reason to be afraid of this. Like, the fear is an illusion because it's not real. And I read this in my little book, the chapter for today, which it's like literally 2 paragraphs, but the chapter title is Ego Death. And the first line says, "Your ego is the creation of your identity through the identifications of your beliefs about yourself and the world. Your ego is your ever-changing worldly identity. It is the attachment of a self that believes and feels as though it is separate from the eternal self and the rest of humanity. It creates conditions and beliefs of limitation, for it knows not of the infinite." So it's like, when you're born, you don't have an ego. Like, babies don't have egos. Children are the ones who like form their egos because they're trying to belong in the world, but we aren't born with egos. Like, your ego isn't a part of you that is natural. Your ego is And I guess I'm even like, it's so hard to use words because they're so limiting sometimes, because I don't, like, when I'm saying ego in this sense, I'm talking about like the negative part of the ego, the part that acts unconsciously, like the ego that is unaware of the truth and acts in this like false narrative, which then creates this illusion for you to identify with something that doesn't exist. Hopefully that makes sense. But then there's also this other part of your ego that is not negative and it's not operating out of shadow. It's just like your persona, or like your frame of reference, or I don't know, I'll get into that maybe. But anyways, your ego is not a natural part of you. It's something that you've created, like based on your beliefs about yourself and about the world. So when you're younger, you form these beliefs about yourself because of the people that are around you and the environment that you're in, and you form beliefs about the world because it's like you are this unconditioned self that is born, and as you grow and become aware of what's around you and aware of yourself and aware of other people, your ego is formed because it looks at what's around you, and you form beliefs about yourself based on what other people tell you about yourself, and those are never true unless you happen to live in like a really secure, loving family. Then you form beliefs about yourself that are loving and true, and then you form a healthy ego. But anyways, so we all have this part of ourselves that isn't really a part of us, our true us. It's something that we created because we have limiting beliefs about ourselves and about the world. But in reality, we are limitless. The world is limitless. And the ego is an illusion because it is a box that we put ourselves in that tell us that we are not certain things, or we cannot be certain things, or we cannot do certain things because of blah, blah, blah. I don't really know. I don't have like vivid or like really any negative childhood emotions. Like I had a really great external childhood, and my family, I feel like, so it was me and my two sisters, two older sisters, and my parents, and we lived in this beautiful home. We lived a beautiful life, but I feel like me and my sisters didn't really have connection with each other, and none of us had true connection with my parents, and my parents didn't have true connection between each other. So it was like we had this great external life, which was really beautiful. But our internal world as a family was basically non-existent because we didn't know each other. There wasn't like a lot of true connection in any way, or like emotional connection. And so there wasn't really much like bad things. There was like subtle things that did negatively affect like all of us, all five of us. But it wasn't like traumatizing or like abusive or any like really extreme. So it's like when I think back to my childhood, it seems very positive, and it seems maybe like lonely. Like I don't have a lot of memories of like connection with any of my family members. It's mainly like moments that I had with myself and moments of like doing activities, but I don't have really any memories of like conversations or moments where I felt seen or really like loved, to be honest. So I know that there are things in my childhood that are the reason for my ego being formed, because if you met me today and I happen to be operating through this ego lens, you would clearly be able to see that I am affected by like just the lack of approval, I guess. I grew up being so like alone and unknown, and now that I'm older, I feel like I am unknowable, and I feel like I have this vast inner world that is so different from the people that I like live in close proximity to, like my coworkers and my like friends. Not my true friends. I have a couple of those. But the people that I live the majority of my life around, they have no idea who I am. And this is obviously something I've been talking about for a long time, and I've realized that they don't know who I am for two reasons. One being that I don't reveal my true self to them, and so they can't see me because I'm hiding behind this layer. And number two is even if I was really giving my true self out into the world, they might not know me because they don't know themselves enough to see the real me. Because the real me is like a really deep, all-encompassing human being that is like extremely aware of the entire world and all of humanity and all of our range of emotions and who we are here to be, and like who I am is fucking massive. And unless you are as big as me inside of yourself, it doesn't matter how much I show, you won't be able to truly perceive it because you don't have the capacity to understand it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that I'm bigger or better than anyone. It's just the truth, though. It's like a lot of people do live in like smaller spheres of knowledge and understanding of themselves and of the world. And that's fine. I mean, I like to challenge people to grow themselves and to grow their perspectives and to see the world in a bigger view. But it's not bad if you choose to live your life this way. I'm just saying that I've come to realize that I look into different topics and philosophies and religious, spiritual ideas all the fucking time. So what I have inside of my brain and what I have inside of my heart and what I have inside of my soul, my whole being is like big. And if you don't have that same knowledge and you don't have that same soul like living in and through your life, and you are smaller, you will not understand me. And I need to come to grips with that and not let that be a reason to fear showing myself. Because I know who I am, and it really shouldn't, and truly it doesn't affect me if I put myself out there and I'm misunderstood by someone who's incapable of understanding me. That doesn't hurt me. It hurts my ego, but it doesn't hurt me. I know this. That is something that I need to like just face a little bit more and be aware of, because I'm kind of stuck in this middle realm where it's like I'm afraid to show myself because I don't want to be misunderstood, because most of the time I am misunderstood, but sometimes I'm only misunderstood because I'm not giving myself. So if I'm this big and I'm only giving you this tiny little window, you're gonna see me as that. And that's not true. If I'm giving you this, I can't blame you for seeing this. When I operate this way, and I'm giving the world this tiny little sliver of who I am, and then they believe that this tiny little sliver is who I am, I feel misunderstood because I'm like, this isn't who I am. Like, you think this is me, but really, I'm fucking huge. But that's not their fault. That's my fault. And I just need to do a better job, I guess, at like recognizing that this like fear-based security wall that like keeps me protected, because it's like, well, I know who I am and I'm safe here. But if I put myself out there and I'm unknown, or I'm misunderstood and people think I'm something that I'm not, that's the kicker right there. That I will put myself out there and I know who I am. And someone looks at me and says that I'm something that I'm not. That fucking kills me. It kills me. It hurts so much. So no wonder I keep myself hidden, because That is an extreme pain that I don't want to face. But if I can be confident enough in myself to just put myself out there no matter what, and remember that it doesn't matter what other people think, because it says more about them at that point than it does about me. Because if I'm confident in myself, then I just can be, and I just love who I am, and I can let myself be all kinds of things for all different kinds of people and not be afraid of being misunderstood, because I know that I'm being true to myself. But if I'm not being true to myself and I'm living out of a place of fear and I'm only giving certain people certain parts of me, it's obvious that I'm going to be misunderstood. It's like when I live out of my fear is validated. It's like so stupid. It's like when I believe in my fear and I live out of my fear becomes real. And my fear causes me pain. But if I can eliminate that fear, then there's no pain. Like, it's like this fucking thing is my only issue. It's like anything, like there's no other issue besides that. It's like that is my thorn. And I just need to take it out and say, fuck off, because it's like literally like the tiniest thing that's just causing me so much pain. And it's like, what am I doing? So anyways, there are my thoughts for today.